They called it an invitation. But to Captain Ilara Voss, it read more like a summons. When the message came, encoded in frequencies humanity hadn't even cataloged yet, the world stopped. Every screen, every transmission, every satellite locked on to a single transmission, a message from the stars. It didn't come with threats. It didn't come with gifts. Just coordinates, a date, and 6 simple words in perfect, terrifying English. Humanity is summoned to the council. The politicians celebrated. The scientists wept. The generals loaded their weapons. And Ilara? She didn't speak. She just stared at the blood-red horizon of New Shanghai, remembering the last time Earth had trusted a signal from beyond its atmosphere. The Earth Unity Council met in Geneva the following week, a rare in-person summit, under the cold dome of a reconstructed Earth Parliament, a building once destroyed in the orbital uprising, now rebuilt with alien alloys salvaged from the last war. "You're sending a soldier?" Senator Curry of the Oceanic Confederacy snapped. "This is diplomacy, not a battlefield." "We're sending a survivor," replied Admiral Kaito, voice low and edged with steel. "The Council doesn't want our poetry. They want to see what we are." "And what are we?" Curry demanded. Across the room, Ilara Voss finally spoke. "Alive." The room fell silent. She was a war icon, though she hated the word. She didn't wear medals, she wore scars. The kind you couldn't see in press releases. During the Siege of Titan, she'd lost an entire battalion, holding the orbit long enough for Earth's evacuation craft to escape. During the Black Sun Protocol, she'd ordered the release of a Class B fusion warhead over the Martian colonies to stop a xenotech virus that turned men into something worse than beasts. Now, they wanted her to play diplomat. The ships chosen for the journey were not sleek diplomatic cruisers. They were refitted dreadnoughts, rusted, massive, and bristling with defense systems that made the old UN shuttles look like toy kits. The ISS Valiant, her flagship, still bore the scars of orbital bombardments. Its hull was patched with Martian steel, scorched black from plasma fires, and in some places, streaked with what no one wanted to confirm was dried blood. No time to repaint, the engineers had joked. But everyone knew the truth. It was deliberate. Let them see what it cost to survive. As the launch countdown echoed across Earth's final orbital dock, Voss stood alone on the command deck, staring out at the blue marble below. She hadn't set foot on Earth's soil in over 3 years. "Permission to come aboard, Captain," came a voice from behind. It was Lieutenant Amin, her new second. Young, sharp-eyed. "Too clean." "Granted," she said, not turning. Amin approached cautiously. "You don't believe this is a diplomatic mission?" "I believe," she said, "that the Council knows exactly what they're doing." "And what's that?" She turned to him. Her eyes were cold. Not cruel, just empty, like a battlefield after the smoke clears. "They're measuring us." He hesitated. "To decide if we belong?" "No," she said. "To decide if we're a threat." Midway through the voyage, the Council sent a greeting, a holographic envoy composed of shifting alien morphologies. Some looked vaguely human. Most didn't. One was little more than a sphere of light with fractal wings. The message was simple: protocols for safe arrival, standard communication codes, and something that caught Ilara's eye immediately. Arrival shall be in ceremonial formation. All armaments are to be disabled upon entering Council space. Ilara stared at the screen long after the message faded. She tapped her comm bridge. "Maintain formation. Do not disable weapons." "But the directive," her comms officer began. "It's a test," she said flatly, "and we're not going to fail it." 3 days before arrival, the Valiant detected a shadow. It wasn't human. A ship, cloaked and silent, matched their course with surgical precision. Too close for comfort. Too far to hail. Not on Council comms. Not on any known frequency. Ilara ordered red protocol. Weapons online. Shields to full. Fighters launched. When the enemy ship moved, it moved fast, slicing through their outer flank like a razor. One of their escort vessels, the ISS Fenrir, was hit. Breached. 27 dead. They responded in kind. Plasma torpedoes tore through the cloaked ship's midsection. It erupted into flame and fragments, some organic, some mechanical. No one could tell if it had a crew. Alara didn't wait to find out. They retrieved the Fenrir's escape pods, recovered what bodies they could. When the dead were brought aboard, still in EVA suits, their visors were streaked with red. The blood froze in long, haunting arcs against the steel. Amin stood beside her. "This is how they'll see us," he said softly. "Blood-stained. Violent." "No," she replied. "They'll see what it took to get here." They didn't speak for 6 hours after the first funeral in space. Not out of respect. Out of calculation. The Valiant was in Council-monitored space now, and everyone on board understood the unspoken truth. Anything they said could be recorded, analyzed, used against them. So instead, the crew moved like ghosts. Silent repairs. Quiet rituals. A sealed bay became a makeshift memorial for the fallen of the Fenrir. 27 names projected on a carbon fiber wall. 27 helmets resting in vacuum-hardened glass. Captain Alara Voss stood outside that room and listened to the quiet hum of machines trying to make sense of grief. They were 5 days from Velkarith Prime, the place where judgment waited. There's a kind of stillness in deep space that no simulation back home can prepare you for. No wind, no drift, just infinite dark and the hum of systems pretending to keep you alive. Voss sat in her quarters, watching the trajectory overlay spin slowly above her desk. The Council's homeworld, according to the data packet, orbited a Trinera star system, light layered on light, casting shimmering reflections off the planet's crystalline surface. It was said to be the oldest neutral zone in the galaxy, a place where even blood-feud species stood down. Approaching next navigation lock, came Amin's voice over comms. Recalibrating mass vector. No anomalies. Voss tapped her console. Understood. Keep full power on point defense grid. Passive scans only. A pause. You still think they're testing us? They already are, she said. We just passed. She took her meals alone, not because she wanted solitude, but because the crew needed her to feel distant. The mythology around her was its own kind of armor, unapproachable, unshakable. It let them believe that someone on this ship had everything under control. She'd kept a copy of the intercepted logs from the stealth vessel. No clear identification. Engine design unlike any known species on the Council registry. And it hadn't fired warning shots. It had gone for the kill immediately. This wasn't rogue piracy. This was a message. And whoever sent it didn't want humanity arriving intact. On the third day, the Council sent another transmission. It wasn't encoded. Welcome to the Edge. Final approach protocol initiated. Await transit corridor activation. Then, for the first time, came a visual. A circular structure floated in the void ahead, miles wide, shaped like a split helix, glowing with energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Around it hovered silent sentry ships of alien design, unmoving but unmistakably armed. Transit gate reads us as primitive, said the comms officer, blinking. Class 3 tech tier. That's 2 levels below most Council nations. Voss gave a dry smile. Perfect. The corridor opened like an eye. A beam of light scanned the Valiant, followed by an external voice, unaccented, and unsettling in its clarity. Vessel designation confirmed. Humanity, sole origin species. Status, provisional guest. Warning, ceremonial protocol required. Armaments will be neutralized upon entry. Everyone on the bridge turned to her. Captain. Voss stood. Engage entry vector. Maintain power to all systems. Do not power down weapons. Amin looked over. That might be seen as... I'm counting on it. As they entered the corridor, the ship began to hum differently. Systems flickered. Council tech trying to override protocols, attempting to neutralize defenses remotely. But the Valiant's engineers had anticipated this. Manual overrides kicked in. Shields held. Weapons locked behind firewalls. Then came the most curious thing of all. A voice. Private. Directed only to her command line. Captain Voss. Your resistance is noted. Your kind walks a familiar path. Not all who arrive seek peace. Not all who seek peace survive. We are watching. The message ended with a symbol. She didn't recognize it, but it looked old. Not like something sent to intimidate, but to warn. When the Valiant emerged on the other side, Velkrith Prime filled the viewport. It was alien beauty incarnate. The planet glowed like an emerald wrapped in crystal, with floating platforms orbiting its upper atmosphere. Cities suspended on nothing, with spires and bridges and light that shifted with gravity. Amin exhaled. Looks like a dream. No, Voss murmured. It's a stage. From orbit, the rest of the council delegations came into view. Ships unlike any the crew had seen. Organic vessels that pulsed like living organisms. Golden arcs powered by black hole cores. One vessel seemed to be made entirely of refracted starlight. And yet, even among them, the Valiant stood out. Brutal, scarred, blood-streaked and humming with untamed, inefficient energy. Human. Voss turned to the crew. Broadcast our arrival signature. Full name. Amin hesitated. All of it, she confirmed. He nodded, then relayed it in the common galactic tongue. This is Captain Alara Voss of the ISS Valiant, representing the sovereign peoples of Earth and its colonies. We come as summoned. We come unbowed. Silence. Then, one by one, the other ships began to shift formation, making space, reorienting, acknowledging, but not welcoming. They were waiting, judging. Voss narrowed her eyes as she stared down at the glittering council world. Let them. The silence of space was broken by applause. Not for humanity, never that. For the pageantry. As the ISS Valiant broke into low orbit, a ring of council ships hovered in a perfect ceremonial arc, engines glowing soft blues and golds. Below, the surface of Velkrith Prime shimmered with impossible geometry, massive glass-like structures that spiraled through the clouds like frozen lightning. And above it all, the council's assembly spire rose like a blade, piercing orbit itself. They choreographed the whole thing, Amin muttered. Like a performance. Voss stood at the viewing port, hands clasped behind her back. It is. Are we the audience? She shook her head. We're the exhibit. Landing clearance came with no greeting, no welcome party, just a corridor of light projected from orbit, precise, narrow, sterile. As the ship settled into position on one of the council's docking halos, Voss surveyed the welcoming committee. Dozens of species, all in ceremonial robes, military dress, neural suits. None stepped forward, none smiled, and none looked surprised. A tall being with prismatic skin finally approached. Its voice resonated in their minds, not their ears. Captain Alara Voss, the council acknowledges your presence. You will follow. No mention of the fallen. No inquiry about the damaged escort. No word on the stealth attacker. They didn't want answers. They wanted a display. The council chamber was not a room. It was a void, a spherical space suspended in gravitic field, with platforms floating like pieces of shattered moonstone. Each species had its own perch, its own voice node. Humanity's platform sat at the edge. Lowest, smallest, expected. As Voss stepped onto it, the chamber dimmed. A booming voice filled the sphere, translated instantly into a dozen dialects. Humanity is recognized. Provisional status. Trial of presence begins. A slender figure rose from a central dais. Her skin shimmered with starlight, eyes like twin novas. High Consul Therics, representative of the Valari Ascendancy, ancient rulers of council proceedings. We grieve for the bloodshed on your approach, Theric said, with perfect calm. But some among us question whether it was provoked. A hush followed. Not surprise, consent. Voss stepped forward. With respect, Consul, the only provocation was our existence. A murmur rippled through the chamber. One delegate clicked mandibles. Another's skin shifted color in slow irritation. Therics raised a hand. The council has concerns. Your species has endured 17 global wars, destabilized 2 colonies beyond its home system, and recently engaged in internal extinction-level warfare. Tell us, Captain Voss, Why should we allow humanity to join this union of peace? Voss held the gaze of every eye, organic and otherwise. Because we're still here. Many species survive, Therex countered. That is not unique. No, Voss said. But we remember what it cost. The chamber fell silent again. On cue, a massive screen bloomed above the chamber, fed from the Valiant's real-time sensor log. It showed the Fenrir, hull torn, bodies drifting. No music, no filter, just death in the void. This, Voss said, is what greeted us on our way to peace. She paused. Let them watch. And we did not retaliate blindly. We recover our people. We came anyway. If that is not restraint, I ask what is. Several delegates looked away. Others leaned in. Therix's voice was quieter now. You bring bloodstained ships. What assurance can this council have that you will not bring bloodstained politics? Voss answered with steel in her voice. We come stained because we remember. We come armed because we will not be prey. But we came. That's more than can be said of others. A flicker ran through the chamber, acknowledgement, discomfort, maybe respect. Therix turned to the rest of the council. The trial of presence is ongoing. We will reconvene after deliberation. The lights dimmed. The platforms began to drift apart. As Voss stepped back, Amin whispered, I think you rattled them. No, she replied. I reminded them. He blinked. Of what? She looked up at the stars beyond the dome. That we're not here to ask for a seat. We're here to take it. The room wasn't designed for human voices. The council chamber absorbed sound, softened it, filtered it, civilized it. But when Captain Alara Voss stepped to the center dais, she didn't speak like a diplomat. She spoke like someone who had buried too many friends to care about etiquette. Let's not pretend, she began. You didn't invite us here. You summoned us. The silence was instant. No translation, no ceremonial echo. Just her voice, slicing through generations of protocol. You expected fear, deference, gratitude for a seat at your table. But Earth didn't come to kneel. Therix blinked slowly. Then why did you come? To remind you, Voss said, that peace was never handed to us. We built it. In the ruins. With our teeth. The trial of presence had triggered a clause in council law, lex origines, the ancient rule allowing a new species one moment of unchallenged testimony. One chance to speak their truth to the galaxy. Humanity had 12 minutes. Voss would only need half that. We crawled out of gravity wells we had no right surviving. We turned deserts into homes. Wastelands into cities. We learned war because nature taught us first. And we didn't stop until we touched stars. A screen flickered behind her, displaying Earth through the ages, fire, plague, steel, sky. You fear us because we're violent, she said. But we're violent because we survived what most species never had to. The chamber shifted. Some delegates leaned forward. One or two, subtle, almost imperceptibly, nodded. We do not bring peace in words. We bring peace in scars. Because that's the only kind that lasts. The Valari consul tried to interrupt. Voss didn't stop. When your envoy visited us a century ago, we weren't ready. You watched from orbit and left us to burn. Said we needed to mature. So we did. In fire. In famine. In silence. Images of the siege of Titan. The Martian exodus. The Cradle Wars. We matured faster than you expected. Stronger than you were comfortable with. And now that we've come to your doorstep, you flinch. Another screen. The stealth vessel that attacked the fleet. Voss's voice dropped. You think we don't know one of you sent that ghost ship? That someone tried to make us flinch before we got here? No rebuttal. No denial. You wanted to test if we'd break. She raised her chin. We didn't. Voss stepped back from the podium. No applause. No outburst. Just raw silence, the kind only earned by truth. The council didn't know whether to be afraid or impressed. And that was enough. For now. The invitation arrived exactly 1 hour after the speech. A private audience with Consul Therix. Not a summons. A gesture. But everyone on the bridge knew what it was. A test behind closed doors. This isn't diplomacy, Amin muttered as they approached the crystalline hall. This is a knife fight with better lighting. Voss didn't smile. Let's hope they brought a sharp one. The private chamber was nothing like the council floor. No platforms. No floating data nodes. Just smooth obsidian walls and a table too long for comfort. Therix waited alone. You speak well for a species so recent, the consul offered. Not quite a compliment. More like a challenge. Voss took her seat without ceremony. We've had a lot of practice explaining ourselves. To whom? Ourselves. Mostly. A flicker of interest passed over Therix's expression. You understand, Captain, that your presence here unsettles many. Then they should have sent a greeting party instead of a cloaked gunship. There it was. The blade in the open. Therix didn't deny it. There are factions within the council who believe your kind will bring imbalance, that your aggression will spread. Voss leaned forward. Then they should pray we stay at the table, because the only thing worse than a human with something to lose, she let the silence speak, is one with nothing left. For the first time, Therix looked thoughtful, or at least curious. Some among us expected you to posture, to beg. But you didn't. Voss shrugged. Begging's never worked out for us. What do you want, Captain? Not just the council's approval. Not the ceremony. What does your species truly want here? Voss was quiet for a beat. Then, a chance to stop being a warning story. Therix tilted her head. You see yourselves as monsters? No. But we've had to become them to keep breathing. A long pause passed between them. Finally, Therix stood. There will be a vote. Not just on your status, but on how far you're allowed to rise. Voss rose as well. Then let them vote. And if they say no, Voss met her eyes. Then they'd better pray they don't need us when the next shadow comes. The council chamber didn't hold its breath. It exhaled, ready to bury a threat in ceremony. The vote was a formality, designed to appease curiosity, not change history. No one expected humanity to pass. Not really. The seats had already whispered, calculated, aligned. Politics moved faster than light. But they'd miscalculated one thing. Humanity had brought a mirror. Captain Voss stood in silence as the vote commenced, her figure projected before the full council assembly. Species after species, platform after platform, cast their decision in shimmering light. Green for acceptance, red for denial, blue for abstention. The red lights bloomed first, predictable and precise. The Valkyrie combine, the sail dominion, the gentle-mouthed Hishari, all old powers, all cautious. Then came the abstainers, neutral blocks, the ones too afraid to choose. It was almost over, until the Elythian Pact voted green. Whispers exploded across the chamber. The Elythians were ancient isolationists, old enough to remember the wars that birthed the council. Their support wasn't just unlikely, it was unthinkable. The second green vote came from the Tevrak hegemony, a war-born race with no love for humans, but even less for council hypocrisy. And then, in a moment that shattered protocol, a delegate stood. Physically. Spoke without permission. We remember when we were denied for being too loud, too violent, too wild. And we remember who gave us weapons instead of guidance. We vote yes, not because they are perfect, but because we see what they've survived. More lights turned green. The room rippled. The vote was shifting. A council clerk tried to halt the process, called for procedural review. Therix silenced him with a raised hand. No interruptions. Let the light speak. Voss watched without reaction. Her pulse didn't spike. Her expression didn't change. But Amin, watching from the Valiant, exhaled sharply. They're cracking, he said. They didn't think anyone would remember what the council didn't do. They're not voting for us, the helmswoman said softly. They're voting for their own regrets. Amin smiled grimly. Same thing, really. In the end, the result wasn't unanimous. It wasn't even a majority in their favor. But it was enough. Provisional ascension status. Granted. A seat. Temporary. Conditional. But a seat nonetheless. Humanity was no longer at the door. They were inside. Derricks approached Voss once the chamber emptied. You were never supposed to win that vote. I know. The consul studied her. You came armed. Blood on your hull. You refused to kneel. And somehow, you've become a symbol. We didn't ask for that. No, Derricks said. That's why it worked. Later, aboard the Valiant, Voss removed her uniform jacket and stared out at the stars. There would be more trials, more traps, more quiet wars fought in words and sideways glances. But tonight, a new voice joined the council, and it carried the weight of Earth's ashes and its iron.